And welcome to the Thursday, May 16th Town Council Budget Workshop. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do we have an adoption of the agenda?
Move to adopt the agenda as submitted.
We have a first and second to adopt. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. So moved. Just a quick note, Ms. Becker is tied up at a previous engagement, so she may not and probably will not be here today. She may try to chime in online if possible. So with that being said, Mr. Orlando, turn it right over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Kim. Just pulling up the presentation, making sure my mic's working. All right. Well, thank you for being here. This is a consolidated slide. Most of what you see in here isn't no surprises, but what we've added are some ingredients of the work that you've done along the way, some of the approved plans for capital projects and whatnot. But for the most part, you'll have a presentation on our screen today. Again, that'll be shared on our website as soon as the meeting is over. As a reminder that we are here to work on adopting the town council's annual budget. The goals and the strategies are straight from our strategic plan into our budget. And as you know, we stay focused on those top 15 priorities, and one of them is to implement the capital improvement program. And again, no particular order. Today, we can pretend or perceive that implement the CIP program is very, very high on this list. We also have included in a lot of these other elements, for instance, implement beach park enhancements. Those are operating enhancements, and those are physical improvements as well that are all. And of course, using the consolidated budget as a catalyst to implement change and improvement, I think first and foremost, that can more easily be done through our CIP program, right? So as we make investments in our capital improvement program, it's to improve the quality of life for our resident, for our business, for our visitor, and really overall. So today's our second of two workshops on May 16th, and our next meeting after this is second and final reading and another public hearing on the budget. As I proposed the budget to you, we talked about capital improvement program fund being a $74,381,459 budget. I've asterisked and put a note on CIP that as we look at this year's proposed budget compared to last year, there's an additional $19.1 million in the budget, 34.7% differential. Of that 19 million, new funds this year introduced are $16.5 million to begin our beach renourishment project. As I get into this, I will slow down and share with you not just this year's beach renourishment program funding plan, but next year's as well, and we talk a little bit about schedule. So we know that our CIP program accounts for and reports all of the resources that are restricted or committed for capital outlay, including land acquisition and or construction of capital facilities and other capital assets. CAP projects are primarily non-recurring in nature, and all capital categories require a unit cost threshold greater than $5,000 with some exceptions. Roads, buildings, and computer software, those thresholds are 50. So if we know that we need to fix some potholes on Main Street, you will find those dollars less than $50,000, and you will see those dollars in the operating budget that won't make that long-term 5-year capital program fund. So what's not up here, and I should say a lot of our sources, and we talked about this the other day, those non-property tax sources of dollars, beach fees, state accommodations, hospitality, tax increment finance, stormwater fees, and other restricted revenues for capital projects. And I think that's important just to kick off to say, why are we building so much in this area and less here? A lot of it is available funding. right? So you can't use a tax for for projects that don't have any impact for tourism, as one example. So what's not in here, and I think that we just need to really pause on for a second, is are the dollars that you're seeing in some other accounts too. So we can talk about housing for a second. We put $1 million in housing from ARPA funds for the public-private partnership with North Point. Those $1 million that are committed are for road, water, sewer, stormwater. In addition, we have $2.5 million in housing this year, and that was for neighborhood stabilization, really to support the Muddy Creek subdivision redevelopment plan, plus an additional $1 million into Muddy Creek. So when we start adding them all up, in addition to those land costs that we're pledging, those dollars are not so obvious in the CIP program. In addition, our Community Development Corporation, Historic Neighborhood, Gullah Geechee, Historic Neighborhood, CDC, there's also dollars in those funds, right, from the federal government, but for infrastructure as well. So know that what's really starting to work well here is we have project management across our organization in different departments, and we have some projects that aren't all embedded in the 5-year true CIP infrastructure plan into some of these other accounts. And so we talked about this at first reading. Those prior year projects are reviewed to carry forward. I'll show you those today. We'll talk and internally, we considered internal lists and other sources for input in new projects. A lot of times we're hearing from our partners, our general managers of PUDs for stormwater projects or pathway projects or road projects. Hearing from you during strategic plan and beyond. We balance funding availability and staffing to manage the projects. Parks and Rec Commission has input in the capital improvement program priority list prior to going to Planning Commission, and then Planning Commission makes those recommendations of priority projects. Years ago, I think there was a very there was a different way we were trying to prioritize projects where there was a 1 or a 2 or a 3, and no matter what, we were building all the projects anyway, just even in my own experience. What we've done is we've simply tried to keep that a little simpler and say, is this a priority this year or not? If it is, can we fund it? And if we can fund it, we will bring it forward to Town Council. And so I think that was well received at Planning Commission, is definitely well received at staff, and then of course, Town Council review and decision. We won't go through this too much, but you'll see that 25% of the sources of funds for CIP are hospitality fees, 28% are beach preservation fees, the tax increment finance district that's been in place for some time. It's generated more than $100 million of capital project investment revenue, still makes up 11.1%. We will see this disappear at some point. The TIF expires at the end of next calendar year. So at the end of calendar year 24, we have to have dollars pledged though and spent by the following. So pledged being under contract, but so you'll see that go away. And then electric franchise fee, large accounts. As you can see, our funding sources, at least here, a little different than what we've seen overall, but in the CIP, you'll see some positive growth, and some of that is because of the fund balance use. But you'll see the beach preservation fee of $15.2 million more this year than last. And again, that's to cover the renourishment. You see hospitality tax increase, TIF increase, and TIF, it's increasing because we're getting ready to start building projects. You've approved some projects. We know that the Chaplin Linear Trail is on our horizon. And so we're excited for that. So, but all in, we have a proposed $74.381 million of revenue. And the diversity of those funds into our programs show 26% in parks, 13% in roads, 7% and change in pathways. And you can see this up here, 29% beach. Mostly a few replacement vehicles for staff vehicles, but mostly for our fire rescue apparatus and team, and some facilities and equipment. Of our proposed CIP use of funds, $21.6 million used for beach, 5.5 for pathway, more than 10 million in our road network, close to $19.8 million for parks, $8.4 million for facilities and equipment, 1.2 for stormwater projects, fleet, 7.2 million, and some soft costs for land acquisition and administration. So we're intending to provide as much transparency in how we think about a project, plan a project, approve a project, and really implement a project. I think that as we're starting to build more than we're starting to plan and approve, the dashboard that our staff will bring to life effective July 1 will serve us well. So we're going to have a capital improvement program dashboard. We've had a version of it already, but I'll call it V2. You'll see July 1, where at any given time, Mayor and Council, if you're asked about a project or you're inquiring about a project, you should be able to get on that dashboard and see where the updates are. Example, where are we with such and such dirt road? It's a live project. Council voted on it. We've put dollars towards it. Where are we? Where are we towards Islanders Beach? I'll say right now, and maybe half the room could leave if you don't want to stay. There's pickleball in here. You'll see about the pickleball courts. Where are we with the planning? Where are we with the permitting? Where are we with the bidding, the construction mobilization? Where are we with the construction of the pickleball courts? That should be transparent. This budget also supports the projects that are underway, so there'll be some dollars that we have not spent, right? Because the projects are still going forward, and we will ask to bring those roll forward projects or roll forward funds to you. There's schedules and project timelines to balance those stages, and what I want to show you today, it'll be more detailed in the dashboard, but today I want to share with you if for instance, we're spending $3 million on a particular project. Is that construction? Is that design, soft cost permitting, construction mobilization, bidding? We want to be really clear at this point. And it really uses our diverse sources of funds, and I shared that with you a few minutes ago. We are always looking for alternate or additional revenue streams. So there's some anticipated grants in here. If we achieve them, great. If we don't, we're still looking for more. And we really pride ourselves in the ability to talk with those folks at the federal and state, especially federal and state agency levels. You know, the county as well. John Robinson, Mr. Robinson, through his leadership, called us not too long ago and said, we have some dollars in our, what was the account, Sean? I'm sorry to put you on. Mike? Your impact fee account?
Impact fee account.
How much was it?
Well, between 500 and 600 was their estimate. We got 600.
Yeah, we received $600,000 from the county by letting them know we need some funds. So our projects are well spread throughout the island. I think this map, well, it doesn't represent every project. We can't fit it all on one map. It's really the baseline of our dashboard, really. But you'll see beach, path, road, parks, facilities, and stormwater, well diversified throughout our island. So our beach program. And so what I'll do right now, I want to share with you what we're doing, and then I want to dive into the money. I flipped this around a little bit. I think in past years, we've always dove straight into the dollars. What are we bringing forward? What money is new? What money is combined? How much are those funds? I think we really just want to share with you how we're looking at capital program and how it's broken down into various programs and really what we're attempting to do in those programs. So our beach program is really maintenance and general improvements to 7 beach parks for paving, landscaping, lighting, signage, upgrades to recycling, waste collection, site furnishing. So all in, our beach program includes those. We manage the beach, including our island-wide beach survey and monitoring and endangered species monitoring. And Activities related to beach renourishment project, including permitting, bidding, construction, anticipated to begin this fiscal year. I'll say it will begin this fiscal year. Construction of Phase 2 improvement Islanders Beach Park, based upon the town council's adopted master plan. Permanent wheelchair storage of five storage structures at 5 locations for additional beach wheelchairs. And that was in a partnership with our chamber, this year's chamber leadership class. So congrats to them, and thank you to that class and to the chamber for that. So $21.6 million for our beach program, and I mentioned our management and monitoring, renourishment, the permitting and bid only this year, and construction bidding. We need some dollars in the account to bid that confidently and mobilize. Beach park maintenance and improvements, Islanders Beach Park construction, and the beach wheelchair construction. And of course, we've left in there until we hear further or otherwise, the Harbor Town dredging. So beach renourishment, I'll dive in a little bit, but just so that everybody understands where we will renourish and where we won't. We have the 25 or the calendar year 25 proposed renourishment project areas, and it shows the various points, the various areas on our island. Brian, Sean, I put you on the spot. I do see, and I did see late, this purple color up here, not on the legend. Is that a renourishment area? Explain that a little bit to us.
Yeah, that's the Pine Island and Hilton Head Plantation. So we just wanted to break it out because there's 2 different permits. One for the larger construction project on the separate permit for the Pine Island.
Okay. So the initial permit apps for that in the 25 renourishment is already occurring, right? It's already well underway.
Yes, the permits have been submitted for both projects, and it's under regulatory review right now, mainly waiting on Fish and Wildlife Service.
Right. Okay. That and the illustration in the map is fascinating when we really look at what we're doing to renourish. And so, the proposed project represents the 4th major renourishment since 1990, and we plan these projects every 8 to 10 years. Anticipated to place 2 million cubic yards of sand from up to 4 offshore borough areas, and the anticipated that the permit will be issued before the end of this calendar year. And I know that Brian has been in meeting after meeting after meeting on that. The permitting agency is asking us for additional elements and requirements to our permit this year than ever. They have raised some issues with dogs on leashes or off leashes at the beach due to, remind me of the bird's name.
There we go. Piping plover and the red knot.
Or not. So what we're doing is we're really working closely with the permitting agency, not to push or affect their decision, but truly to understand what their concerns are. Construction dates pending permit requirements, but we anticipate mid-summer of 2025 this would start. So peak season, we would be really mobilizing, and what I will make sure we do and confirm with town council and the community. As soon as we start really knowing a little more about this, we have to communicate externally. We have to work with our Chamber of Commerce. We have to work with our those companies that rent homes, those companies that where folks live on the beach, behind the gates, outside the gates. Our communications strategy, our communications plan needs to be robust. And so we're just starting to put that together and fine tune the details on those dates. Islanders Beach Park, you approved the master plan. We put the pathway through the center. I think it's already working well. I drove through there. There were a lot of people walking on it. It looks great, but a lot of people were using it. And again, town council approved this master plan that added, plus or minus, I forget, but about 80 plus resident parking spaces here. It allows for the meters to be removed and moved up here. And so this whole area would be resident pass only, new playground, new beach access, crosswalks. This one's in, I think it's starting to be used well, but we had crosswalks and pathways on both sides, and to build that. the beach wheelchair storage designed by the chamber and really with Xenos to start housing those wheelchairs better. A lot different than just rolling them out into the pine straw and locking them up next to a tree. So our locations, you'll see them as Coligny, Dreesen, Islanders, Folly, and Fish Hall. And each storage structure is for 2 wheelchairs. They're not hot when you go pick them up. They're not all dirt and rain. And so I think that the improvement there is great. And again, thank you to the class. So that's it for our beaches. So it's a significant year, a major investment, and most of the work from the project managers and the CIP team in that regard is to really understand beach renourishment. If we look back, this is the first time in a really, really long time that we've renourished our beach without Scott Liggett.
Questions from council so far?
Thank you. And I think the dashboard information, I think already it's very helpful, so I look forward to the improvements. Nourishment, I hear you saying working with the community. When I first saw summer of 2025, I'm like, oh, uh-oh. But I appreciate that. I think that knowledge with the public and all of our users of the beaches is very, very helpful, so thank you.
Stanford.
Thank you. Mark, I think it's important to emphasize and underline that these expenses are paid for by tourists, not by property taxes from residents here on the island.
Yes. And I'm going to show that in a few slides to show the sources of revenue. Yes, sir. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Agree with the communication strategy. Nourishment can be somewhat cumbersome, but I think us showing a positive towards it as far as our visitors are concerned is definitely important. At the appropriate time, I'd like to learn a little bit more about some of the permitting issues that we're having with the beaches, because I know we had adopted policy around that, so we'll make sure that we going in the right direction there. And I also have to mention, I know when we first started having discussions around beach renourishment, I called out Fish Hall. That is one of the best places to clam on Hilton Head. So you don't put too much sand over there, right? Okay?
Right. Absolutely. And we're mindful of that. Each renourishment project, all in, will cost in excess of $40 million. Our opinion of probable cost based upon the latest and greatest pricing and information we have, at least on paper at this time without real pricing and contractual numbers, we're anticipating somewhere around $42,500,000. So it's a big pill to swallow, right? Brian, how did you arrive at that number? I think that's important.
Our consultant, Olson Associates, came up with that number based on other projects that they've recently did. There's basically 3 companies that do it in the country, so they have up-to-date pricing based on all their other projects.
Right. So what, yes, sir.
Brian, cubic footage of this proposed nourishment, basically the same as 2016. What's the difference in price between 2016?
That's a good question. I don't have that data right now, but I can easily look that up and get it for you.
I think you're going to come up with numbers in a minute, but I think you said 40 million, and the number we saw before was 19 million. 19 million more, but maybe that part is
Yes.
14 or 15 million more. So there's a delta there, I guess.
Well, so this year for beach renourishment, of the 42.5, 16.5 is earmarked this year. So that leaves us $26 million left. And so just for some confidence as we work through that, the projected beach preservation fund, those dollars primarily that we're using, so no A, no H, but just beach preservation fund, that would, at the end of June 30th of 2025 fiscal year, or at the end of this coming fiscal year, I should say, the FY25, we would have $26.9 million anticipated projected in the beach preservation fund. we have to hold, right? We have to encumber and commit $12 million in that fund balance for emergency management. So that would leave us with close to $15 million. The forecast for FY26 beach preservation revs is 13.7 based on today's projections. So that would leave us $28.6 million unencumbered for use of $26 million. I will work with you all. I will work with town council and our finance director to decide whether we're going to use other sources of revenue for beach, in addition to the beach fee, or if we should issue a bond, right? And we talked about borrowing. If we should issue a bond, perhaps a 10-year bond on beach preservation, that could raise at least $40 million. And so I just want you to know that while this year's 16.5 is through a revenue stream and it's cash, and there's about forecasted $13-14 million of revenue and healthy fund balance. I just want us to be mindful that we should be thinking about other sources and or a bond for beach. So
Going forward after this one, will we be thinking about how to increase that fund so that it's more in line with current price projections?
only so much you can create in revenue, and perhaps we have to think about a diversified approach to funding. We are, so. I'm writing that. All right, so let's move on. So the pathways, right? More than 65 miles of public pathways. Our work is maintenance and improvements to the existing pathways, repairs, striping, enhancements, construction of new pathways, and then projects identified right now, collaboration with Bike Walk, Hilton Head Island, Bike Ambassadors, and our capital projects staff, always providing those pathway assessments. Of the $5.5 million, those dollars are earmarked for maintenance and improvements. The nice photo here is a new pathway segment that really connected better and improved that connectivity in Shelter Cove area. This year, William Hilton Parkway, eastbound from Folly Field Road to Shelter Cove Lane, design, permitting, and easement acquisition, and planned for right now. New pathway, Jonesville, the design, permitting, easement acquisition, and construction. William Hilton Parkway eastbound from Wexford, from the Wexford Drive here to Arrow Road, and that is design, permitting, and easement. Dunnigan's Alley, design, permitting, and easement, and then the new pathway on Cordillo at Pope Avenue, really the punch through into and connecting to Shipyard. And when I get through this a little bit, I'm going to show you the current dollars, the new dollars, and a little bit more in the sources of funds. Our roadways, in our roadway program in our CIP, is to maintain, improve, and enhance our drive lanes, curb gutter, crosswalks, lighting, and corridor aesthetics. We've been to you a couple of times with road corridor workshops, most recently that third segment of William Hilton Parkway and Main Street as two examples, but there's a lot more to the program. We are pushing forward on dirt road paving programs to accept dedications of private or unpaved sections of road, public rights of way, and it's, I think, a celebration that we acquired Main Street. We are now trying to do the same with Mitchellville Road. Our work that we're starting to do is based on the draft, but it should be based on the final major thoroughfares corridor plan, those safety projects, beautification projects, and those consistency elements we're working on. Keep in mind, most roads that we're talking about aren't ours, right? Aren't the towns. They're mostly somebody else's, mostly DOT. The streets that we control are few, but I believe it's growing over time, including Main Street. And then, of course, our work to maintain the adaptive traffic signals. You will have at the next meeting or soon thereafter, is it May or June, Sean?
I believe it's on the June 4th meeting.
Fourth meeting, we will provide to you an update on all things adaptive traffic signal system. The dirt road priorities this year, for different reasons, Mitchellville Lane, Freddy's Way, Horse Sugar Lane, Alice Perry Drive. We are aiming to construct or to achieve a level of construction on those roads this fiscal. Alfred Lane, Benjamin Drive, design, permitting, and acquisition. William Hilton Parkway enhancements, we talked about section 3. That encroachment permit is in with DOT. It's a robust encroachment permit. It includes backup detail, not just what we want to do, but details that support what we want to do and why we are asking the DOT for that level. I know Jim is here and Carla's here. There's Jim. Jim is here and Carla's here, and that whole amazing, Teresa's probably managing the adaptive signals as we speak, but an amazing traffic team that I think starting to pay dividends for us. So on that segment 3, Beach City Road to Dillon Road, we anticipate construction this year, as well as the Northridge Palmetto Parkway safety improvements. Segment 5, Matthews to Shelter Cove. Segment 8, Sea Pine Circle, Pope Avenue. I think there's just some planning, design, and some other elements there. We will undertake an island-wide intersection improvement, striping, wayfinding, safety signage, pedestrian enhancement game plan this year. When Secretary Justin Powell drove with us, a few of us recently, actually it was last summer, wasn't it? While he was the chief of staff, he made a suggestion. He said it'd be a lot easier for the town to come forward with an island-wide striping plan than doing all of this in different segments at different times with different encroachment permits. We know there's dollars out there grant-wise. We know that there's some work to do. And so when I say a striping plan, it should be any time a pathway crosses any road on our island, not just William Hilton Parkway, not just Pope, not just Palmetto Bay, but all places. And so we are going to design that. So you can imagine we have to bid that, design that, and then work with either Beaufort County and or DOT to get the details right. But that is I would suggest, if anything else, low-hanging fruit, probably the harder thing that we'll ever do, but also probably the most effective and important thing we can do right away. Adaptive traffic signal management and maintenance, Pope Avenue streetscape enhancements. Pope's our next focus. Some real issues down there. We know that down near the Coligny Circle and traffic and parking and circulation. Main Street, design and permitting, roadway maintenance and improvements, and then landscape lighting and safety improvements, as you've been seeing. Our roadway projects are throughout our island, and you can start seeing some of these dots loading up to some of those troubled areas, right? Mitchellville and Freddy's are the dirt road projects, Horse Sugar, Alfred, Main Street up there. And this is the illustration, I would say the option that town council agreed upon and said move forward on, with pedestrian buffers, pathways, travel lanes, 2 travel lanes, on-street bike lanes, and better crosswalks on Main Street. Exciting. Parks, all maintenance and general park enhancements, design permitting improvements of Mid-Island, Chaplin, Crossings, Shelter Cove, Barker Field, Coligny Circle, Pocket Park, and the Chaplin Linear Park. Construction of Patterson and Taylor, I know that's been out to bid. We received 2 bids. We're scoring them. We're refining pricing and really digging into both of those right now. I appreciate Brian's vision and innovation to bid these projects out differently than we have in the past as one project with a contractor to mobilize, and I think that will do a couple things. It'll help our pricing, and it got the attention of some additional contractors and whatnot, general contractors, And then also from a time standpoint, right? From a project management and time saving standpoint, I think that will show that we're starting to build projects more efficient, more effective. And then Island Rec Association have made their capital project list, including improvements to the building, pooling grounds, and special event venues. Major projects on the park program, Mid-Island Park, design and permitting of phase one, so it doesn't say construction. Why? Why doesn't it say construction, Sean? I think we know the answer, right? It takes a while to design and permit. It's going to take us for the rest of this next fiscal year to carefully and purposefully get through that. What's taken a lot of time is the inspections on the front end, trying to identify that stormwater system through there. Chaplin Community Park, design and permitting. Crossings Park, including the Bristol Sports Arena. So design, permitting, and beginning construction. Shelter Cove, design and permitting. Chaplin Linear, design and permitting. To work with you on this, on the Chaplin Linear, please know we'll come back to you just like the other master plans, Islanders, Chaplin Crossings. And then Patterson Family is design, permitting, and beginning construction. Sir.
What parks might be completed 2025? Anything? It looks like maybe not, based on what I'm looking at.
Completed in fiscal year 25 or calendar year 25?
Calendar 25.
Yes, sir. Brian,
I think Islanders will be completed, and
talk louder.
I think Islanders will be.
Yeah.
Taylor and Patterson Family Parks will be very, very close to substantial completion.
Thank you.
And pickleball courts. Calendar year 25?
You're talking. So, are you talking about at Crossings? We have to design and permit it. The permitting takes 9 months, like hands down. So
Will be under construction.
It'll be. I think it'll be under construction.
See that major projects in this year in that close to $20 million investment. Taylor and Patterson was on Barker Field. A little bit of work there. I think we can stabilize some of that soccer area, and we'll come back to you to talk Barker Field in general. Ford Shellring, will that be complete?
We're working on the archaeological assessment of it right now, and then the county will, once we get that approved, the county will start construction. I think they could possibly have that complete, but they're the project manager for it.
Awesome. Island Rec, our public art program. Thank you, Natalie. Every time we have a fun ribbon cutting, we know Natalie in the public art program is involved. General park enhancements, when you've seen them, right? I think that little by little, we continue to improve our parks. There's opportunities to improve a playground. It doesn't have to be a major overhaul, but just to come current on a lot. Green Shell Park, Jarvis Creek Park, Old Schoolhouse Pickleball, the design, permitting, construction is the next phase of that. And on here, on our longer list is Mitchellville is right, correct, guys? Mitchellville? Okay, and we'll dive into that in a second. So Mid-Island Park, phase one, for clarity, is the design, engineering, and permitting for the light imprint parking area, ADA spaces, pathway, removal of some invasive species plants, ecological restoration of the lagoons and stormwater channels and restrooms. That's phase one. We're working on the design and permitting of phase one right now, and anticipated to begin construction in late FY25. Any future phases, just for clarity, we will come and work with town council on any phase above and beyond that land and parking, whatnot, stabilization.
Mark, sorry,
Ma'am?
can you go back that slide? I think that's very helpful. I think the public, every time we explain phase one, I think it helps public to understand what we're doing. But I might suggest we use a different graphic because that shows a lot of improvements that are not in phase one. Just
Okay, we will prepare a phase one illustration. Town council, that is the approved master plan that we're working on. Unless and until you approve something else, we will prepare a phase one. We will use, though, we'll use the phase one baseline of that stormwater and whatnot through that project. Yes. Worth carving in that regard. Chaplain Community Park, this is on your next agenda. I wasn't shy to put this up there because I believe we have addressed your direction and concerns. Soccer, 5 fields, but that equates to about 10 fields for the kids that are playing out there. But 5 large, professional level, college level soccer fields that are out there. The tennis courts remain intact, the 6 pickleball courts, parking through the site, crosswalks at your street edges, a sidewalk on the opposite side of the park along the street, a fresh new dog park, some community building and bathroom areas, and arguably this triples the parking at Chaplain. It provides a trolley stop in the site itself, and then a really nice new playground. Ditto with crossings. So we've laid out crossings, the renovation of the existing park. We'll bring this to you at council in May, and this includes the design and permitting of this park this year. Bid and construction to execute the contract for the skate park and pump track in 2025. Pickleball as well, Brian. John, shouldn't it say pickleball up here? Should it say pickleball up here?
On and permitting.
Or pickleball too? Shelter Cove Community Park, additional 80-plus parking spaces, a resetting of the playground, and the connection along the water, really to get, finish what we started. And again, phase 2, design, permitting, and the construction of that will be in 26. Patterson, won't get into the details. You'll see design, permitting, construction in 25. The contract's been advertised and under evaluation. The same with Taylor. Old Schoolhouse Park, next steps include landscape, ADA parking, sidewalks, restroom, shade and seating, signage, and a basketball court resurface over there. And then this is more of the same that you've seen in the first reading of the budget. What's down here that jumps out at me is that facility program, because they're a partner, the Mitchellville Freedom Park capital projects, the parking, some signage, some pathways, and some enhancements there. Coastal Discovery projects are on this list as well as improvements or maintenance to our buildings, to our public safety equipment, our software, to our IT equipment and software. And again, these are in the CIP for that threshold value. Town Hall facility enhancements. We have some structural issues on some flooring areas, and some other issues. Fire Rescue Training Center upgrades to the classroom in phase 1 of the burn building, construction. Wild Wing Cafe demo. Fire Training Center, fire stations 1 to 7, maintenance and replacement, overhead doors, certain elements of those buildings to make some significant improvements to. Security cameras and connectivity, all public safety cameras, Chaplain, Islanders, Rowing, Ford Shellring. Here's Mitchellville Freedom Park, broke down a little more. Improving the property with a mod and in alignment with a mod, but according to that approved master plan. We have funds in the budget, and I believe state funding may come through in addition to ours, but improving the parking lot and Loop Road, and then also helping in the parking pathway signage and playground on that, on property. So,
Mark, could I ask you a question about that? On Mitchellville, my understanding is that Mitchellville has had a pretty successful capital funds campaign. What's the balance between what the town is paying and what Mitchellville is paying?
I don't know how much they've raised as of right now. our investment is around $1 million into the parking lot. We can find that information out.
Doing some shadow buildings in there,
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know that we're not paying for those. I
No,
don't.
sir, we're not paying for that. We're going to pay for the parking and the sidewalks, those horizontal elements of the site that bring that site up to what I think should already be brought up to speed if we're inviting people there. It's our property, ADA, good sidewalks, good parking, good lighting, good signage, those types of things. Ma'am?
Question about the Old Wild Wings building the demo. I see on the chart that you've given us that construction would be in FY '25. So just wondering about, I appreciate that there are permitting issues, but a little bit about the timing, if we know, and how many parking spaces might be added after demo.
We've looked based on the capacity of the site. I think you can get about 150 to 170 parking spaces on that site. The demolition will occur, we want to complete it this fiscal year, and then design and permitting for the parking lot to occur in '25.
Okay, so between now and June 30 demo? Want to make sure I understand.
All right, Brian's telling me demo in fiscal '25. We had talked about doing it after Heritage, once the Toll Plaza has been demoed, and that was demoed here a couple weeks ago.
Hopefully coordinating with summer season.
There's a little bit of that. We have a month left in this fiscal year, and it's busy down there. And people are using that lot to park. And so if we're going to demo that building, we've got to close it all off. I would say, and Sean and I haven't had an opportunity to really compare notes on that demo. I think we need to wait until after of the season because of the mobilization. It would be great to just leave that parking lot alone right now and let people park there for the summer, better than it would be to just go demo that building and try to achieve more parking spaces right now. So,
Thanks. I just trying to get a sense of it, but I like that approach. Thank you.
Postal Discovery, these requests came from Rex and Company, but Armstrong and the Hack House Flooring and Office Reno, Pavilion Flooring, Discovery Lab interior repairs, Horse Barn structural repairs, and then a bunch of miscellaneous improvements, boardwalks, side gates, tree work. And then the one initiative that I believe that we should help undertake and expedite are those event space improvements. There's some ADA issues out there, unbalanced, uneven sidewalks. I've seen some things out there I don't like to see when I'm out there enjoying myself. Taking pictures of it at 9 o'clock at night so I don't forget. And so I think with Brian and Sean and our good CIP team, we'll make some improvements out there on behalf of everybody.
Mark, the town owns that property, and at some point, Coastal Discovery Museum is probably going to want to know how to optimize that land over time. Is there money in the budget to do any planning in fiscal '25?
Don't know. Depends on how deep of a dive. If it's a conceptual overview, yes, I'd even say we have some folks in-house that can help with a lot of that. Xenos and Missy and some others could do that. We could probably do it in-house. There's not a lot of extra dollars. Our budget's lean this year on extra planning and those types of things. Stormwater program. We talked a little bit about this the other day. We went over those capital projects transferred in, so I won't really get into it here. But $1.2 million you see up here: Wexford Pump Station, Gumtree Road, Jarvis Creek Outfall, Moonshell, and a few other projects. We will come back to the table with you in a workshop. For lack of time or because of time, do you have questions on any of this? This one, stormwater.
Any questions? Doesn't appear to be.
All right. Fleet, delivery of a remainder of fire fleet, addition of public safety boat, new and replacement vehicles. How many were there, Brian? Program?
4.
Is that on the next slide, probably? Engine, pumper replacement, and Quint Company replacement, and fire rescue support vehicles. Oh, I should have waited. A little further breakdown. It's high level and then the breakdown. As I asked Brian that question, I remembered where it was. It was on the other slide. But 4 replacement vehicles that are more than 10 years old, they're in the shop more than they're not. Our engine and pumper replacement, and Quint Company replacement, our ladder truck replacement, and a support vehicle replacement service truck.
Mark, we're doing all those through leases, aren't we?
Not everything. On every vehicle, the fire rescue, yes, sir.
That's what I was asking. Thanks.
And then land acquisition, some soft costs for right-of-way and surveys and appraisal and legal fees. So I wanted to show this year what we're doing and get excited, or at least communicate to you what we're trying to do, and not just dive into what the dollars look like. But as we look at our beach program, we have a few columns on here. The FY24 revised budget, right? It's you approved the revised budget. This has been in here before that, but the beach program and the other programs I just listed was a $55 million program. Of that $55 million, we are proposing to carry forward $13.1 million. And you see where those dollars are. Out of the 4.8 beach, we're carrying 1.8 forward. Out of 5.4 path, we're carrying a little close to 7 forward. So that means we've built close to $5 million of improvements for pathways, correct? So this is starting to show our measurement, not just on what new money we need, but on what was accomplished and how those dollars, how that cash flow results in the carry forward. Roadway program of 6.7, we're bringing forward 1.6. Parks from 9.4, we're bringing forward 4.8, and again, a lot of that's encumbered already. Facilities and stormwater. So you'll see the new funds plus the carry forward funds, right? We're planning that we're carrying forward. So by the end of June 30, this is what Sean has indicated to me that would be left over. That's based upon an ability to perform under the contracts that we have. And so that makes up the carry forward plus the new funding make up $74.3 million. Mr. Stanford asked a question about, hey, these are tourism visitor dollars, and you'll see beach program. The funding source of that $21.599 million is only 2 sources of funds: beach fees and hospitality taxes. It's current revenue that's not spent yet in our fund balance, and it's this year's revenue in addition to that. You see the pathway program funding sources, hospitality and South Carolina A-Tax, and I won't get into the rest of them. But you see up here that all of those transfers in, those dollars that we talked about in the first reading as well as on Tuesday, impact fees, franchise fees, H-Tax, TIF, those make up our projects. I will say this, the safety net, if we have a year that we're projecting to be very busy and anticipate $13 million of H-Tax, and we're starting to trend, and we come to Finance Committee and realize we were way off, something occurred in the economy, something occurred somewhere in the world that affects those revenues, we'll slow down certain projects on here and work with you on what those projects are. But every year, just like the last, we are really confident with our projections. We're really confident with our very diverse revenue streams. I think there's an art and science to building a project. The science is what Brian knows, right? The engineering, the ability to build a project. Some of the art is what dollars do we have and how do we place those dollars? How do we draw the lines of those dollars to that project so that we can get more done than we think we can? This is a little more detail, and I think this is more helpful to put online. I will share with you that the breakdown of beach, right, the $21.5 million and the 5.5, we broke down with some specificity of the same revised budget, the carry forward, the new funding to make up the total. And what we've also identified on here is that Planning Commission prioritized it. What's great about this list is you seem to be, we all seem to be in line with what Planning Commission priorities were. We shared with Planning Commission what staff's priorities were. They added a couple here. Do you remember what those were, Sean?
There were two. One was for improvements to the Spanish Wells intersection at William Hilton Parkway. That'll be part of the bigger project through the corridor. On South Forest Beach.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, a beach program of 21.599, all prioritized by Planning Commission. You'll see that beach renourishment makes up 16.5 million of that 21.5 million. Islanders, for the most part, makes up a considerable portion of the rest, $3.75 million. Going to dig a little further, just for your clarity and mine along the way, and the public, you'll see that as an example, if I showed Islanders, we now see the funding amount, we see the scope of work, construction, pending coordination with beach renourishment, but we have been clear that this year is a design, permitting, and construction year. Clarity. And I won't go through every project, $5.5 million of pathways. You'll see the new pathway segments, 4.5 million in Jonesville. I know that I've been working with all of you to bring that project forward. It's prioritized by Planning Commission. We have spent a little bit of dollars this year, but it's on the soft costs and some preliminary design. But you'll see that this year, as an example, Jonesville, the design is complete this year. We will permit and start construction. It says right here, begin construction of pathway in FY25. So one thing I think that I believe that we're doing this year better than most is trying our best to provide as much clarity as we can on the life cycle of a project. We're being realistic. I'll say what used to take 2 years is taking 3. I've said that before. But a lot of that isn't internal, it's just external. Surveys are taking longer, permitting is taking longer, and frankly, sometimes pricing is coming in. Brian and Sean, not to divulge too many details, but you received the pricing on Patterson and Taylor. Pricing yet?
So all I've seen is the submittals. I'm sure Rich has the pricing, but I don't know what that is off the top of my head.
So much for that question. I'll get that. So along the way, you'll see roadway projects in our funding and prioritized the dirt roads, Mitchellville Lane, Horse Sugar, $1 million, Freddie's Way, 575 programmed, island-wide intersection improvements, $1 million.
I do have a question. I didn't bring it up when we were going into more detail previously. We were talking about intersections. Showed a picture of School Main Street with a nice cross section of what it's going to look like and so on. What's important about that is that it was multimodal.
Yes.
And I want to really emphasize that as we think through our intersections, we are thinking intermodal, because where's the trolley stop on Main Street? How does that interact with the bike, the pedestrian, and so on? And that's Pope Avenue, and it's a lot of different places. Just wanted to really hit that nail pretty hard, multimodal and the intersection. Thank you.
Total roadway investment of more than $10 million. Main Street, $2 million. Landscape lighting and safety enhancements, $1 million. I had $1 million on the prior slide of the striping plan. So you see this year that there's some significant investment in the roads that we should be able to see that will make those impacts. William Hilton Parkway Segment 3, did I skip over that one? I didn't yet. Is that on here, Sean? I missed it. Going. Yep.
Right there. Beach City to Dillon Road.
Beach City Dillon. So $500,000 for that initial phase encroachment permit, which is landscape lighting on the side streets, on the side of the roads, and striping. And for full clarity, design, permitting, construction, FY25 project scope of work, along with total funding.
Mark, I applaud staff for trying to coordinate the look of our intersections and so on. I think we should also be thinking about the look of landscape for the entire 278 corridor.
Yes.
It's not all going to be the same
Right.
because different conditions deserve different treatments. But I think we should have that be in part of the planning process as well.
Yes, sir. I'll ask Sean a question. I know I know we're aligned on this one. Sean, in the major corridors plan, we're coming back forward, right, soon after the end of June with another workshop. In that next workshop, you're going to talk about new or additional segments of roads, such as Sea Pines Circle, Pope Avenue, William Hilton Parkway, especially in the Chaplin neighborhood stretch.
Yes, sir, that is the plan. In June, we'll talk about what we call segment 1, which is the gateway.
Right.
July will be the next segments that are on the priority
And
list.
as part of that, there's some significant time spent in that planning process for the landscape treatment.
That's correct. There's much more detail for each segment in those workshops.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark,
Oh, it's okay. Don't be sorry. It's what we're here for.
yeah, so since we've passed by the numbers on pathway and roadway, I want to let you know, last night, I was at the Rite of Silence along with Councilmember Alfred to bring greetings on behalf of Mayor and Town Council. And one of the things I pointed out was the capital improvement projects for pathway and roadway. And not the total for FY25 is proposed, but the new money. And we got applause. So an early thank you to you and your staff for coming up with this really great list of improvements to our community. And it's being observed and appreciated.
Thank you. That's great. And to Ms. Bryson's great point, you know, I will make sure that as we looked at it, right, and I jumped through a couple of them, but when you really look at the pathways, what jumps out at us here is some general pathway improvements. Keep in mind that's separate than the striping. The design work for Wexford and for the Matthews and Wexford area, Arrow Road, a considerable amount invested in Jonesville construction. And here you'll see the dirt roads, but also island-wide intersection improvements, a lot more of what you were just talking about. $2 million to start getting into Main Street. Roadway maintenance improvements, 580, adaptive or a signal. Beach City Road improvements, $1 million, landscape lighting, safety. So what the good part is we bring you through that corridors plan, and once we have confidence to start moving, especially Mr. Ames brings up that point, and we've talked about it a lot of times, right? We don't want to just make every segment of this road generic. We don't want to just throw crepe myrtles down, some more pine straw, and call it a day. We want to make sure that, one, we're delivering, but two, that we're thinking through this properly. Parks, you see 2.5 million earmarked for Mid-Island Park, 1.9 for Chaplin, 5 million for crossings in Bristol, and that is the pump track. That is the concrete bowl, so to speak. Pickleball, that is pickleball. That is 18 courts of pickleball. We're trying to fund 12, but as we laid 12 out, and we'll show that to you in the next meeting, we laid out 24 pickleball courts on Arrow Road across from crossings. We we can confidently say that we can build 18 of them, right? It's easy to just draw 24 pickleball courts and then realize when you get in there you can't. So I don't want to over promise, under deliver. We're confident though with the parking. We've planned parking for 5 spaces per court. So that's 4 players and a friend. We will plan and construct the entire parking lot, even if we just build the first 18. It includes a small restroom and building. It includes some shade covering. It includes really nice, well-done, best-in-class courts.
And again, what is that for? Just say it out loud one more time.
What's that?
What's it for?
Pickleball.
Thank you.
Oh. I almost
Just
said
want everybody to hear that it's for pickleball.
It isn't, and it's in part and parcel with the pump track and the covering of the Bristol Sports Arena roller hockey basketball court right now. Some lighting that will shut off at 9 or 10 p.m. To cover that area. And then know this, though, that we just won't get out there and build a concrete bowl and pump track. The game plan that Brian has in place has a stakeholder, right, kid and family input sessions at the park, and we'll plan all that and as we lay that out. So some great enhancements coming our way. Shelter Cove Community Park, well, here's Patterson and Taylor. We've placed 2.7 and 2.9 in those park funds, and then a laundry list of some additional. Town Hall facility, 1.7 million. Fire rescue training, close to 4. The demo of Wild Wing, I do not think we will spend that much, but I just don't know what we're going to find when we get out there. Plus, start using the additional for the engineering and site mobilization or whatever, stabilization, whatever we need to add some more parking spaces out there. Tree planting and forest management of $500,000. Fire stations, 1 to 7 replacements. That's a lot of those overhead doors. Historic Mitchellville Freedom Park there was $1 million. IT equipment and software, 1.5, and that's just upgrades and licensing and those different elements. Stormwater program, we went over. Wexford Pump Station at $500,000. Jarvis Creek outfall, Gumtree, Moonshell. Our fleet, dollars in our fleet, but a fleet program total of $7.2 million. And our land acquisition program.
We have 4.5 million for the ladder truck. Now, we aren't going to be delivered the ladder truck in fiscal 25, are we? That's just a check to be written for the order.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
why. That's why we're carrying the dollars in there. There's a possibility they'll be delivered this year, and if they are delivered, we need those funds in the account.
Interested because of the habitual carry forward each year.
Right.
We're carrying forward 13 million from last year to this year. Is it going to be 13 million? And do we always just carry forward the same amount? Are we beginning to make that less and less each year because of whatever?
We are anticipating bidding and delivery better and different, and I do think that carry forward will be different. Chief wants those trucks now. We've had a couple delays with them, right? We thought they were going to be delivered within about 24 months at the beginning, and something went wrong, and the flux capacitor was out, and then it took a little longer. So, but I hear your point, and I see the mayor shaking his head sitting next to you. So for a total CIP program of 74,381,000 and change, I would like to say thank you to Sean Colin. Sean has the responsibility and privilege to oversee the capital improvement program as we know it today. This has grown a lot in the last few years. I think that that we work really closely together, but also with Rich Harriman and the entire finance team to show not just the project, right? The source of dollars, the future projection of dollars, and that 5 year. So I'm proud of the work. We're trying to be as transparent and open and forthcoming as possible. I want to deliver projects to you a lot quicker, a lot better, high quality, not just a couple pickleball courts and a pathway a year. And I think that what I see up here, at least, I have some confidence in with the team that we have.
Mark, while you're on land acquisition, it shows 3.4 million in current fiscal year for Bryant Road property, which is also related to our housing fund, where we're spending, we projected to spend money from the housing fund for workforce housing on the Bryant Road property and stabilization in that neighborhood. So I think it's important to link those two together and show how we're working together with our housing fund and our land acquisition. And also 72 Pope Ave, that 4 million, that's the Wild Wings property.
Yes, ma'am.
So linking that with helping out with that Cligney area Low Country Celebration Parking Center with parking. So even though that's money for this fiscal year, since it's shown on that slide, I think it's important for the public to know how we link the land acquisition to our strategic plan and carrying it forward in our other funds for the next fiscal year.
Thank you for that point. If you add up to that point, if you add up our two partner projects, that North Point we've talked about, two, the Bryant Road and Muddy Creek that you've talked to me about at strategic plan, and if you add the value of land to that, we have about $13.5 million towards those. So, and that's why I said trying to just be upfront with you all on our infrastructure and horizontal and facility work here, but you do have capital project dollars that are last year as well as in some of your other funds that we talked about on Tuesday. So again,
This
we're,
slide. Growing a little bit based on councilman names and the mayor's sort of vibration we get on this side of the table.
oh,
Funny, it is, maybe. Oh, there it is.
So, that in 2020, I guess it was 2023, when we had our strategic planning session, there was a lot of talk about the capital improvement plan and the carryover, and I'm going to use the term burn rate. Okay, so as we look at this, the 55 million that is the revised budget, I think probably needs to be cleaned a little bit because we got those land acquisitions in there.
right.
But when you, whatever that new number is minus those, take that with the carry forward, you will establish what I call your burn rate. I think that's a metric that we need to use as staff is presenting to the F&A committee moving forward, so to sort of get a good handle on the productivity and where we really stand as far as what needs to be in the CIP budget moving forward.
Makes sense. That's good. A great way for us to look at that, and we'll share that with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I would say that we could caveat that, like for the fire equipment, you know, it's out of our control if they don't deliver, but we need to have it in there. So if we could make sure that that doesn't inflate the budget where we're not spending. And I think we have spent in a lot of these categories and a lot of these projects. I think some of the flexibility we were looking at with the ability to move money within the program rather than the project would also help us when we execute a little bit more efficiently.
There are a couple of variables in that. One is the efficiency and capability of staff to prepare the documents that are necessary for the construction, and then the construction itself. And we're challenged because we don't control the number of companies on the island and so on and so forth. So I think Mr. Brown's suggestion is good as long as we parse out the differences within that sort of assumption. Mark, are you at a concluding point, or do you still have more to go?
I'm at a concluding point.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. You used the word transparency a few minutes ago. I am very confident that you and staff and council have been as diligent in trying to prepare documents that the public can ascertain, digest, ask questions, and so on. So I think that we are doing what the community wants us to do. The problem is, I'm not sure that the information is getting to the community in a form that they understand or want to access. So I think we have to be perhaps more deliberate in how we are passing on critical information about the budget to the community. I'm throwing out an idea. I'm not sure it's a good one. I don't have a clue what it would cost to send out a single 6x9 postcard that simplified the budget to the extent. Now, what that means, I'm not sure. Andrew Davis is back there solving all of our problems. But how you communicate in the simplest form what we're taking on this coming year and what it means to the community. And it may be as simple as adding a link to the town website that also has a simplified, digestible format or explanation of the budget. But I'm constantly hearing from the community, it's too bad you guys aren't more transparent, or we don't trust you because you don't give us all the information. And I think there's a big responsibility on the part of the public to seek out that information, but I think we can do a better job perhaps in sending it out in a format or in a way that's digestible and understandable.
Sure. Message heard and agree.
The second, and this is just a request, that you send to council the authority statement that we talked about at the last meeting, just so I've been asked a couple of times, what does that really mean? And I'm not positive that I really can explain it at this point.
Now we'll just kind of go around the table with questions, final questions, comments. And Mr. Stanford, I'll start with you this time.
Thank you. Mark, I would call this certainly a robust capital improvement program that you've got. Are you confident that staff can in fact handle this during the period?
Yes, I'm confident we can handle it. We're going to make a big dent. You know, at a certain point, I know this, it's almost a slingshot effect with your capital improvement program. It takes you a couple years to figure out the contractors, the pricing, the bidding, the procurement, and then things start moving. I do believe that this is the year. Keep in mind, we are going to renourish the beach for the first time in a long time. My first time, really Brian's first time. So I'm keeping an open mind. We will deliver those priority projects that are up there, those ones that you have voted on, and if we are having issues with that, we will be reporting about them to Finance and Administrative Committee.
I would follow up on that by stating again that this is all done without a tax increase.
Yes, sir.
Excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Joffrey.
I very much appreciate the detail, thoroughness of the budget presentation. I just wanted to support the suggestion made a few minutes ago about transmitting this type of information to the public. And in many ways, I think it can't be just numbers. There are maybe a half a dozen or more key points about this budget. One of which is that the tourists support A, B, C, and D, wherever it may be, and particularly in the area of capital improvements. Another is that there's been staff turnover, but not an increase in the. And in 2024, we've been preparing for major park improvements. 2025, we are going to have to deal with nourishment. While we have a large budget for fiscal 25, if revenues change in the future, here's how we're going to deal with it. A few of the basic points that are not really just numbers, but things that people think about and are concerned about.
Thank you.
Bryson?
First of all, I like I think Mr. Stanford described it as robust. I like the robustness of the capital improvement projects. We are really blessed with lots of different revenue sources to be able to use. So I celebrate using all those different kind of revenue sources to do a lot for the community. I also like the dashboard and look for the new improved dashboard. I think that's very helpful when I'm asked a question as a council member about what are you doing about Islanders Beach? Where is it in the process? I can pull up the dashboard and at least give them that information. I also like the map that you showed of, for instance, pathways, where they're located around the island, because I like that we are intentional about not just putting all our projects in one location, but spreading them out across the island to work with all of our residents and all our visitors, wherever they might be, and trying to improve those elements, roadway, pathways, parks, facilities, to improve all those facilities across the island. And again, it's not just in my backyard. So I really like that. I think it'd be helpful to include with the dashboard, maybe the same location as the dashboard, those maps showing the location of those projects. You know, a couple of us have community meetings from time to time. It might be good for the town council to look at having maybe, you know, at least other than in this setting, going out in the community and talking about, you know, where we are in the budget and where we are with our projects. It doesn't have to be an agenda, but it can be a more give and take kind of meeting with information about what's going on in this area, so that folks know about that. It's another way of communicating. But overall, I'm supportive of the capital improvement projects and the budget, and I look forward to seeing more of it being done this year. I'm looking forward to actually playing pickleball in the future.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. Communication aspect. Davis, I think a good headline or tagline may be, we invest in what we value. And this CIP program really displays that. There's just one specific that I wanted to mention. While we were talking about pathways, we had a huge success with the Patterson Park and Taylor Park exercise of development, where staff went out into the community with a plan that was well enough along to provoke thought, okay? And as we talk about pathways that are coming through the historic neighborhoods, particularly Chaplin and Jonesville, we need to have that same exercise so that we are capturing the opportunity to have some cultural and historical recognition along the way. But also when we start to have words out in the public of acquisition, that obviously is a scary moment. Okay, so sort of understanding how private properties are going to be affected or not affected as far as property rights are concerned. So all that discussion thing needs to happen as we go through this process.
Thank you for that.
Other than that, I'm pleased with what we have in front of us.
All right, Mr. Ames?
Appreciate the second shot. Well, just two comments. One, I think this kind of investment is critical to the future of the community, and if I may say so, it's prosperity. I can go back in time and say that reputation of the island was established by significant investment in amenities for the public's and visitors' enjoyment. And so I think we are simply extending that in a new era with significant investment. I'd also say that I think one of the things that the community was successful in doing early on was exceeding expectations. through quality design and quality investment. I think that's exactly what staff is doing at this point. So I say congratulations. I say to the community, let's continue to exceed expectations. Thank you.
Thank you. So my comments are right in line with everybody else's, and no need to repeat them by any means. We've gone through a period of really minimal revitalization, and this is a pivotal point in where the community is going. Coming out with, and I'm going to say a $55 million CIP budget, leaving the beach aspect out of it for right now. But that is a true reinvestment back into quality of life that we have talked about for a long time and have planned on, and staff has been so busy in working all these different plans and projects. So a huge kudos to the staff and the work that they've done into all this. And in fiscal year 25, I am ready to see shovels in the ground. That is where, the shovel hits the dirt. And we see things starting to happen. So it's time, and we've all been waiting for that. And I think once that starts, the community will feel that things are being done in the right way, and to see the progression, not expansion, but progression in the amenities that we have. So great job. So
I order my hard hat on Amazon when I get home.
hopefully we'll have golden shovels. So appearance by citizens. Any citizens wish to make any comments at this time? Mr. Anthony.
Basically, mine's just a question. On the pathway for Jonesville, I see that it's anticipated to start in 2025. Do you know when in 2025? And how long will that take for completion?
At this point, we don't have a schedule. I can talk to Carla and we can try to get something together for you. But the permitting, like I said earlier, to go through the state permitting right now with the coastal zone consistency, it's 9 months. So everything that we do, once we get it, we've started to submit things in the very beginning with basically a plan that's not complete just to get in the queue. So we're starting to kind of try to jump the system a little bit.
Gotcha.
But once we get the plan fully designed, we can probably put a better schedule to it. And
All right.
we'll send it out. We'll start sending monthly updates to the residents.
All right. So you don't have the design actually done yet?
Yeah, we did a field walkthrough about 2 weeks ago.
I was there.
Yeah, so they started doing the preliminary alignment. So the design will follow that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
If I could,
And again, keep an eye out for the CIP portal on the town website.
Exactly what I was going to say. So by July 1, we'll have the dashboard and the project, what are they called, project sheets, put together that include anticipated schedule for these types of stages.
Any other citizen comments?
Thank you. Alex Cruden, I live in Sea Pines. I've been a residential property taxpayer for 20 years now, and my residence is my single most valuable asset, as is true with many people in this room. And I would like to say in appreciation how much I appreciate in the many, many ways, including as evidenced by this capital budget, how the town of Hilton Head Island government has increased the value of my home, as well as the diversity of my life and the opportunities that my wife, our guests, our family have when they come here. There is so much to appreciate. I speak as a volunteer on pickleball. I volunteered to do this and have done so over the terms of 3 mayors and numerous council people. And it's been a good experience. But as that volunteer, I do have a couple of questions, 2 questions in particular. One is your best estimate on how many pickleball courts would be constructed by the end of calendar 2025. Can anyone, this is an estimate, but What seems likely to you?
Sean? Just talk through the permitting, right? We can't just guess the number. So when council approves the master plan that's not yet approved, but approved in a couple weeks, we immediately go to the next, right, the next piece of the life cycle, which is design.
Detailed design to get.
How
the
long does the
construction
detailed design typically take?
2 or 3 months. 3 months,
Okay.
then 9 months for permitting.
So there's
So about
12
a year,
months, so.
a year from now is when we would be in a position to
Bidding out.
prepare bid documents for a contractor to go out
Right.
and, or to get responses from contractors. It's another month to make a selection.
Right.
And so
We will be under construction this time next year-ish, plus or minus a month or two, depending on design. Sometimes design's taking us 4 months, sometimes it's 2.5, depending on the issue. And I think that we will be under construction. I do know this, I don't think we can build pickleball courts at that level at 18 and within, and then let you play on 3 of them when we're still building
No.
the other, however many that is. But we'll be well under construction in calendar year 25. We will be under construction by summer of next year.
That would be excellent. Do you think that would include the 6 at Chaplin, the 12 at Crossings, both?
Well, at Crossings, we're going to attempt to build 18,
Right,
not 12.
I know.
The ones at Chaplin, no, because that is a much bigger project, and we've got to put that parking
Tied in
in and
with,
and
yeah.
move some things around first. And again, coordinate with Island Rec on their programs and different things. So we'll be under construction in 2025. We'll start completing construction on these in 2026,
Thank you.
calendar year.
And my second question is, do you think that the newly appointed Mr. Loudon would like to have a discussion with the ever-growing number of pickleball players on this island? I would make that offer to arrange that.
Absolutely.
Great. I'll be back in touch.
Talk
with Sean?
Sean will have him contact you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back. So Mark or Sean, if you could, since we're talking about CIP and the conversation of 9 months for permitting, how much more is that time-wise than it used to be a couple of years ago,
Well,
even 4 years ago?
Brian answered that question, but
It's pretty significant. There's only 2 reviewers, to my knowledge, that review everything in the 8 coastal counties. I've heard that they realize it's a problem, and I've heard they're trying to get a 3rd. I remember getting projects done and like calling them and getting it done in a couple weeks to a month, and now it's 9 months. So it's quite a significant delay.
And this is going through which agency?
EHEC, OCRM.
we run into similar issues with transportation projects where the queue for those with limited resources for review, where they're taking much longer. We've been successful in contacting some folks at SCDOT to try to help move those projects and permits along. But that's also increased for transportation projects.
And add to that, material availability. And I'm not saying our surveyors are taking longer to do their work, but I was surprised just months ago when I realized how long it took just to get a surveyor's attention on a project. Sometimes we've received only one bid. Our finance director called me the other day. She's in the middle of packing and moving, and she's like, "Have you seen this bid? How do we go to contract with just one bid?" It's the second time we've tried to bid it, and the numbers are higher than we anticipated. It's just one bid. You know, that's the normalcy. It's not just Hilton Head Island. I think it's a lot of places on the whole supply and demand of people and materials and goods. But I think what's going to help us is that, one, we just talk to you about it out loud. We pledge the dollars. It's cash. It's mostly from our visitor base revenues, and we're trying to build projects. You know, I've like I said, what used to take 2 years and the Heisman Trophy pose and a high five, it's taking 3.
Right, and that's just, it's about getting that information out to the public as to why does it take so long? Why can't you start building it? You're the town, you should be able to get the permit and go. Well, there's other agencies involved, other factors involved, and it's just not that easy, so.
And if I could add one more bit, Brian and our team are very creative in looking at new ways to bid work. Again, the Patterson and Taylor design build concept and bundling that. I do want to say we do have a wonderful CIP and a path in front of us, but we'll also compete against ourselves. When we bid all this work out with limited contractors, we'll just have to be cognizant that they're going to be, it may draw down on the ability to execute at the same pace, but.
We have a new CIP program manager. We mentioned him just now. He comes from the private sector. He was a land development manager in home building companies, publicly traded companies as well as regional. I think he had a lot of involvement with Berkeley Hall and the clubhouse and Berkeley Hall back in the day, but then also Pulte. So I tease him, and knowing he worked for Pulte, I know he knows how much a blade of grass costs, right? And he's going to push on contractors for us and with us with a sense of urgency and some knowledge that we need here.
I'd like to follow up, Sean, on your statement about how does staff prioritize which direction to go first? All that's happening, do you prioritize within that list, or is there something else that's in play?
An excellent question. Certainly, we take guidance from town council and the strategic plan on which items you'd like to see built. I think that's why when we looked at Crossings Park in initial phase, it was to focus on the Bristol and the pickleball. And so we're segmenting the project so it's not the whole project, which could bog down the program. We also look at the permitting or permits required, the different agencies. If we know that it's going to be a 9-month lead time, we'd like to get the permit and then focus on projects that may not require that same permitting and to move those forward. And certainly in the CIP, there's other projects that are not big land disturbance, they're enhancements. And so we'll try to fit in whatever we can when we have gaps in timing while we're waiting. So we look at the program as a whole. And the good thing with our team is we've got different divisions and project managers that can execute all the different programs that the town manager mentioned during the CIP.
Decisions, your staff meetings as to what needs to be done for the next month, and juggling that depending.
Yes, sir. There's no sense for a project manager to remain idle just because they're waiting on a permit for 3 months. Let's get them advanced in a small project and try to get that knocked out in that interim period. Yes, sir.
And Brian juggles it. That's why sometimes he doesn't smile a lot. He is juggling this in his head right now, wondering when he leaves the room which project he's going to get going on. But he does, and I've seen that. And so to that point, we have project managers across our whole organization, not just the few project managers on the CIP team. So great team. Let's see what we can accomplish, and we'll keep you informed at Finance and Administrative.
Awesome. Great job. Thank you. And any other business? We're adjourned.
Smile a little. I should have said a little bit.